It simply didn't matter whether fans were gearing up for a staggering battle of the Titans under the bright lights of the grandest stage of them all, or bracing themselves for a contest that had bad news written all over it from the moment it was announced. Each of these matches left fans wishing they'd spent their time more wisely about 60 seconds in. Gareth here from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 wrestling matches so annoying they lose you in the first 60 seconds. Number 10, let the spooky swampy shenanigans begin. The horror show at Extreme Rules. Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt found themselves in a pretty unenviable position heading into 2020's horror show edition of Extreme Rules. The monster among men had finally been handed the Universal Championship ball, but was forced to kick off his reign to the unfortunate sound of crickets. And Wyatt was coming off an unexpectedly entertaining Firefly Funhouse cinematic spectacular opposite John Cena at a surreal early pandemic show of shows. Both stars had also somewhat underwhelmed in their prior PC encounter at Money in the Bank too, but that dud of a monster mash was made to look like a 5-star classic in comparison to their Swamp Fight follow-up, a match that had eyes rolling within seconds. The latest slice of spooky cinematic action took its sweet-ass time setting the stage, with a grinning Wyatt rocking on a chair in full cult leader mode. And the attempts at building any real tension for the swampy battle that would follow immediately fell flat as the droning backing track built to the gripping moment a wide-eyed Braun declared, "I'm home." This opening minute was somehow more agonizing than the reality folks around the world were facing down each and every day at the time. Horror show indeed. Number 9, Gator and Nowinski don't get off to the best of starts. WWE Raw, July 2002. Things were looking quite promising for Jackie Gator back in 2002. Hot on the heels of earning herself a WWE contract on Tough Enough 2, the rookie found herself thrown straight into the Raw and SmackDown mix, working with the likes of Trish Stratus and Molly Holly. But then the absolute debacle that was July 8's Red Show mixed tag car crash happened. A match that saw Stratus team with Bradshaw to take on Gator and Chris Nowinski. Shortly after Nowinski's rather odd early goading of fellow former football player Bradshaw into an American football stance before darting away from incoming danger, Gator looked entirely out of her depth upon being suddenly dumped into the contest. And despite Stratus's best efforts at pulling a decent performance out of the rookie who'd only trained for a few months prior to the bout, the action turned clunky within 60 seconds. Stratus's botched attempt at some sort of springboard leg attack was soon met with a sea of boos from the unforgiving many in attendance, and the wheels only proceeded to entirely come off as yet more miscommunication between the pair eventually paved the way for a completely mistimed top rope bulldog and dodgy looking pin. That opening minute misfire simply acted as a depressing sign of the infamous exchanges to come. Number 8, coaches with mics do little to enhance the action. WWE NXT October 2010. It is always worth remembering just how far NXT has come over the years. Jumping back more than a decade to a time when the brand was still in its reality TV show stage, newcomers Caitlyn and Maxine were thrown into a contest together in October 2010 that highlighted just how early in their in-ring development both women were in the opening stretch. But making matters that little more difficult to consume for both fans at home and those in the arena, the rookies' mentors had been positioned on the apron with a mic fitted, so fans were exposed to agonizing, forced coaching soundbites, along with some consistently stuttered and botched grappling in between the ropes. If you've never stumbled upon the surreal footage of Vicky Guerrero and Alicia Fox awkwardly telling their poor proteges to do something and get on your feet through the speaker system repeatedly and can make it through the first 60 seconds without smashing your head through a wall, then I'd highly recommend a quick watch of the weirdness. Number 7, Luchasaurus' second heel turn forces the feud to continue and a squash. All Out 2022. Thankfully, the following deeply frustrating opening minute occurrence was ultimately paid off quite effectively by the time AEW's next pay-per-view exploded onto the scene. Yet that still doesn't change the fact that what looked destined to be an intense and deeply personal grudge match between Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Christian Cage at All Out 2022 left many brassed off before the action had even properly gotten underway. Coming into the hotly anticipated fight between the two former allies, Jungle Boy's longtime mate Luchasaurus had shockingly turned to the Dino dark side, only to return to his pal's corner before long. But in yet another, only this time far more annoying swerve, the towering Kane 2.0 once again turned his back on his Jurassic Express partner and launched Perry off the stage before he'd even finished his entrance. And this second heel turn instantly transformed a once compelling potential war into little more than a sub-minute angle to keep the feud going long enough for Cage to recover from his injured arm. Now sure, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy's eventual full gear steel cage epic slightly redeemed this disappointing development, but there's no escaping the fact that many were still left feeling utterly frustrated and cheated by the time Cage eventually locked in his kill switch mere seconds into their underwhelming all-out match. Number 6, thanks for coming Melina, Royal Rumble 2022. This year's iteration iteration of the women's over-the-top rope spectacle boasted one of the more shocking returnees of recent times, in the form of former women's champion Melina. After not throwing down in a WWE contest for over a decade, the comeback queen found herself coming face-to-face with none other than the Boss upon drawing number 2 in the all-important bout. So this could only mean that the pair were set to put on something of an unexpected dream match for a few minutes before the next entrant made their way into the contest, right? Not quite. Within seconds of locking horns with Sasha Banks, Melina was unceremoniously tossed out of the match, with her total active Rumble time coming in at just 53 seconds. Yikes. And sure enough, many were quick to blast WWE for what came across as blatant disrespect towards the much-loved veteran. Fellow in-ring legend Gail Kim even took aim at the company on Twitter shortly after Melina's rapid elimination. In truth though, this was merely the first in a long line of disappointing Rumble occurrences across both titular showcases on the night. Number 5, when two departing monsters collide at some point, right? WrestleMania 20. The concept of the next big thing and demand colliding inside of a WWE ring at WrestleMania 20 had all the makings of a blockbuster popcorn delight. There was just one small problem heading into Brock Lesnar and Goldberg's first chapter of their eventual Titanic trilogy. Fans quickly caught wind of the fact both men were on their way out of the company, and that knowledge brought with it an opening minute of live audience fury that left the two monsters in the ring looking a touch flustered. But instead of doing everything in their power to get the pissed off folks inside of Madison Square Garden onside early, the two thought it wiser to simply draw out the match derailing reaction from the 20,000 strong. In response to roars of "you sold out," the two mammoth performers simply postured and circled one another for an opening minute that ultimately felt like an hour. In fact, there was even a point when special guest referee Stone Cold Steve Austin could be seen instructing the Defiant Gladiators to, you know, wrestle. Some 2 minutes later, the hugely disappointing contest still hadn't produced so much as a lockup, meaning that the rivals' eventual Survivor Series 2016 rematch would have been over in the time it took this wholly annoying farewell contest to actually get going. Number 4, the plodding mind games begin. Ric Flair's last match. Ric Flair is 73 years old. That's nearly a decade older than Sting. So to expect anything other than a smoke and mirrors affair heading into what had been billed as his last match earlier this year would have been pretty darn foolish. But even with that in mind, things still didn't get off to the most promising of starts for a final showing that eventually stretched on for a bloated 27 minutes. The Nature Boy's training alongside eventual adversary Jay Lethal at least hinted at Flair being in some sort of shape to touch on a few of his greatest hits before letting the more capable hands take over. From the second the fragile WWE Hall of Famer stepped in between the ropes on July 31st though, it was clear this particular endeavor could turn ugly in a heartbeat. And the stand and talk smack to the brittle veteran in order to get around having to actually grapple them shtick grew stale within a minute flat. Whilst executing a sequence he'd been hammering away at with Lethal in training, Flair looked dangerously frail early on, and the longer the plodding encounter continued, the more uncomfortable the entire scenario became. And news of Flair supposedly passing out twice during the never-ending contest only hammered home why a star in his 70s shouldn't be anywhere near a squared circle. Number 3, Papa H starts the empty arena no-holds-barred game. WWE NXT April 2020. Another early sign of all things black and gold being on the decline reared its head on April 8th, 2020, stuffing as much grittiness and seriousness as they possibly could into the foggy locale. The stage was set for a soap opera finale between longtime NXT rivals Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. But before the one-time DIY members could even lock eyes on one another, old Papa H suddenly popped into frame, crouched in the corner of the ring like a cocksure teen trying to look hard in front of his high school crush. This excessive jock energy soon bled into the clearly vital opening monologue too, with the game reminding the pair that it all ends here. It starts in this ring and it ends in this ring. And the second he leaves the room, it's on. And your reward for getting through that opening minute collection of cliches and laughable gravitas? A near 40-minute slog of a final beat that once again proved not everything Trips touches turns to black and gold. Number 2, Cole vs. Lawless sets the dreadful tone. WrestleMania 27. Who will ever forget that glorious moment in time that played host to a despicable heel Michael Cole going one-on-one with Jerry Lawler on the grandest stage of them all? Nobody, sadly. In all honesty, this one had folks groaning the world over before either figure had even stepped inside of the Georgia Dome. But the way this absolute worst sort of slapstick circus eventually began to unfold unfold was enough to leave those same fans wondering why they bothered to invest their energy in this surreal form of entertainment in the first place. After the cowardly Cole simply refused to step between the ropes upon special guest referee Stone Cold Steve Austin's request, the King quickly set about brushing off former World Heavyweight Champion Jack Swagger like the nameless jobber he may as well have been in that moment. I'll let you decide whether that, or the visual of a veteran announcer repeatedly having his face yanked at a plexiglass cube as cries of "Jerry, Jerry, Jerry" no doubt popped the mad billionaire in Gorilla, was the more offensive beat to infect an already rotten concept early on. Either way, this one confirmed its status as soon-to-be infamous crap within about a minute. Number 1, Tyson Fury shows off his technical prowess. Crown Jewel 2019. Tyson Fury can lay claim to being arguably the greatest boxer of his generation. What he isn't, however, is a masterful in-ring technician when it comes to the world of pro wrestling. But instead of covering up his understandable lack of wrestling prowess when it came time to throw down with Braun Strowman at Crown Jewel 2019, the baffling decision was made to allow the eventual heavyweight champion of the world to string together some grappling offense out of the gates. And the immediate results were as painful as you'd expect. After an energy-zapping spell of collar and elbow tying, Fury finally teased letting his hands loose. You know, the thing he's actually good at. But he then proceeded to follow that up with a timid roll-through and pretty lame hitting of the ropes to the sound of unfiltered apathy. Just like that, what could have been an electric sprint of a real sport feel bout quickly devolved into a snail-paced subpar wrestling match. Yay! This one clearly should have been put to bed in the first round based on that ill-advised first 60 seconds or so. But the powers that be hilariously opted for a near 10-minute failed experiment instead. What are they like? And that's our list of any other wrestling matches so annoying they lose you in the first 60 seconds. Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this kind of thing, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you as always for clicking on this video today. Hopefully I'll see all of your lovely faces very, very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself, eh? Bye bye!